My next review is about the girl who saved the world a lot. At least that's what her tombstone read. Hello there, and thanks for returning to both RealScreenReviews.com and WeLiveFilm.com. I am movie critic Nick Iacobucci, and our next review is for the now classic TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy the Vampire Slayer started as a mid-season replacement and then went on to become one of the best and most loyal followed shows for 7 seasons. Let's see, it ran from 1997 until 2003, and starring in the title role of Buffy is Sarah Michelle Gellar. Joining her as season regulars are Nicholas Brendan, Allison Hannigan, James Marsters, Emma Caulfield, Michelle Trachtenberg, and Anthony Stewart Head. Buffy the Vampire Slayer comes to us from triple threat writer, producer, director Joss Whedon, and since the days of Buffy has gone on to major success as the director of the 3rd highest grossing film of all time with Marvel's The Avengers. This tale tells of a world where one chosen female is sent to keep us safe from vampires, demons, monsters, creatures, and basically anything else that goes bump in the night. This chosen girl is known as the Slayer, and it is bestowed with superpowers to assist in her destiny. Something else that is also meant to assist the Slayer is the addition of a guardian or mentor that trains her and keeps her safe, and that individual is known as the Watcher. Within this world, Buffy Summers is the Slayer and Rupert Giles is the Watcher, and together they try to keep the peace in the hometown hellmouth known as Sunnydale, California. Now these two are joined by the nerdy Xander and the talented witch Willow Rosenberg, and week after week this group of Scoobies will do their very best to bring a peaceful balance to a universe filled with many a monster. Well, people, when some hear the words Buffy the Vampire Slayer, many immediately think dumb and cult monster show, and anyone that thinks that way has simply never watched this program. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is in all actuality one of the best, most well-crafted and expertly produced shows in the history of television. Season after season, this series consistently drove itself into refreshing and original directions, and never in any of the 7 seasons does it ever begin to feel stale. I was going out of town for work for a few weeks, and a friend of mine lent me seasons 1 and 2 to watch while I was gone. I had always laughed at this guy because of his fascination with this program, but reluctantly gave it a shot. When I had returned from my trip, I returned his DVDs to him and then just went and bought the individual seasons myself because I was hooked, or should I say I had a stake in the show. This takes me to the star and title character of Buffy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In this role, Sarah Michelle Gellar not only transcends beauty and looks, but she captures the feelings of heart and spirit as well. Buffy died once and was willing to lay down her life at least a dozen more times throughout the run of the series. The only person that I can even think of that has sacrificed as much or even more as Buffy Summers is Kiefer Sutherland's Jack Bauer, and trust me when I say that's boasting. Week after week, and with absolutely no glorification or reward for herself, Buffy Summers tackles the scum of the After-Earth, and in the process solidifies herself as one of television's all-time greatest heroes. Moving on to the rest of the Scooby group, that takes me to Xander, Willow, and Giles. Just like other great shows with the examples of Seinfeld, Friends, or Sex and the City, Buffy the Vampire Slayer would not work without all of these other elements. Willow is the naive child that grows to great power while lacking a sense of maturity to go along with it, and when you add that to the tragedy that befalls her, you end up having a pivotal and emotional character. Willow is the innocent soul that must learn to face the real world and live through it every day. Xander is the quirky and funny character that gets us laughing through the episodes. However, he proves himself so much more than an element of only comic relief. As the series progresses, Xander becomes a staple of reality in a world full of weirdness, and throughout its run, Xander many times distinguishes himself very admirably and heroic. This brings us to the anchor of the show in Rupert Giles. Giles is so very much the father figure to not only Buffy and the other lead characters, but he is the mentor to the viewing audience as well. For the most part, Giles usually speaks as the voice of reason, and his stuffy British maturity simply brings the perfect balance to these hormonally charged American irresponsible youths. And put simply, Giles is just cool. Now, even though he is not an original cast member, the character of Spike more than deserves his recognition in this review. James Marsders brought to vivid life a character that was dead, and in turn was also the series' biggest contradiction. He was a soulless vampire in search of not only redemption, but also becomes a martyr when he sacrifices himself in the end to save us all. Spike added depth, dimension, and emotion to a serial drama already packed full of all three. Now, because of time constraints, I will only briefly mention great characters like Angel, Cordelia, or Wesley Wyndham-Pryce, but if you want to hear more about them, I guess you're going to have to find another review. Also, there is Oz, Riley, Faith, Dawn, Tara, and Joyce that all deserve a tip of the hat, but I must give a shout out to Jonathan, Warren, and Andrew, who have to be the best supervillains ever. Another reason that Buffy the Vampire Slayer stands out is because of the creative force behind the camera, and Joss Whedon put together a major television drama with the most minor of resources. He also took risks and chances at each and every turn and faced issues head-on that other shows fearfully shied away from. Having a teenage feminine heroine was ballsy in the mid-90s, and even though now every TV show has a gay character, Willow's openly gay behavior was groundbreaking, innovative, and pioneering at the time of its broadcasting. Joss Whedon is also the only person that I know of that could have brought an entire musical score to an episode that consisted only of sung dialogue, and who else would have guts enough to terminate his own lead and main character in the middle of the run? Whedon and his team of writing and creative artists brought an emotional weight to each and every episode, and they always made sure that they wrote characters that you cared about, with the monsters of the week always coming in a distant second. You end up taking a journey through life and its experiences with these kids, and we all seem to live through these individuals while getting wrapped up in the drama. First love, loss of relatives, losing lovers, maturing. These are all things that you feel because you have a solid and emotional character development to follow. When something bad happens to the Scoobies, you feel their pain, and I got choked up more than a few times during the run of the series. Some scenes in some episodes were nothing short of gut-wrenching, and to any fan, there is really no question as to why Buffy was voted the number 47 best written show in television history. Just like the 1980s classic detective drama Magnum P.I., one episode of Buffy the Vampire could be a straight drama, one episode could be a straight comedy, one chapter could be chock full of action, and one could be solely romantic, but most episodes contained elements of all of the emotions I just mentioned. Now, some of my favorite episodes include Hush, Chosen, Grave, The Gift, Conversations with Dead People, and Bargaining Parts 1 and 2. The list is endless but must be narrowed for this review. Some of my favorite moments through the Buffy years include when Giles returns at the end of Season 6 and puts Willow in her place. Also when Giles hooks up with Joyce, that's pretty funny for a long time. And when Buffy and Spike bring down the house by hooking up, you could easily consider that memorable. And finally, the consequences of Joyce's death and Buffy's confession to Spike that she was in heaven and would have preferred to stay there, well, those were just gutsy and emotionally driven scenes. I can also say that I always loved all of the pop culture references and humor that were always injected into the stories and plot lines. The constant barrage of comic book mumbo-jumbo was good fun, and something else to admire was how they ended the series. Buffy the Vampire Slayer went out on a perfect high note and swan song. When the series concludes, not everyone lives, and some of the people that you think will get killed actually survive the ordeal, and some that you are sure will survive, well, they pass away very heroically and with much sadness. The creators of this show resolved the conflicts of this world the same way that they hit them week after week, and that would be head-on and with guts. At 7 seasons and 145 episodes, Buffy the Vampire Slayer has more than proven itself as one of the most above-average creations ever to hit the small screen. This show was ranked in the top 50 of AFI's best-written shows, and to any of the millions of die-hard fans, this is absolutely no surprise. It is so very rare that a show comes along and can hit a bullseye with drama, with action, humor, sincerity, adventure, romance, but somehow Buffy accomplished that goal week after captivating week. In the end, for me, it was without question the emotional connection that you felt with these characters that kept the viewers so enthralled with this universe, and that is the driving force of any successful television show. Nick's Real Screen Review is a perfect 4 stars out of 4, and that's for one of the better shows ever produced in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Well, I'm afraid that's all the time that I have today, and thank you so much for stopping by. If you have enjoyed this review, please click like below and give me a thumbs up, or subscribe to either or both Real Screen Reviews or We Live Film if you haven't yet already. I'm sure that I'll be returning soon enough with more movie and trailer reviews, and until next time, people, this is Nick Iacobucci saying I'm not always right, but only when it comes to the movies, and thank you for your attention.